We would say he's locked into an infantile attitude to life. He's being devoured by the mother. Would you tell us some of the rituals which primitive societies had to break that dependency on the symbolic mother?
All the big transitions in life are in all societies have been accompanied by so-called what Genep calls rite de passage, rites of transition, to make a ritual to help people to make the step over the threshold. Now, the most famous one, which has been studied mostly by ethnologists, is the ritual of initiation, where the young men are initiated into the secrets of the tribal law and into the secrets of sexuality. And they have to leave mother and their home. They are secluded in the bush. They are symbolically devoured by a maternal monster. They are reborn. They have to generally stand a lot of tortures. They are sometimes also homosexually assaulted by the older men with the idea of injecting them masculinity. And then they are generally at the same time instructed with the secret law of the tribe and the religious traditions. And if somebody, and a young man has undergone all this ritual of transition, then he's afterwards a full member of the tribe, he's a man. And many tribes call the ones who are afraid, who are for some other reason not initiated, they say, he's not initiated, he's an animal. Meaning he has remained completely unconscious, he has remained in an unconscious animal conditions. He has not really made the step to being human.
Are there any societies where there is no rite of passage, where men remain in that state of dependency on the mother, where they stay animals?
Well, we have not many sociological matriarchies, but I read once a book about a South American Indian tribe where there was a actually sociological, not religious, but sociological matriarchy. And there, the women were happy, fat whores, ordering the men about, and the men were lean, submissive, nervous creatures who were planting the fields and doing the work for the women, kind of porters' figures. And positively, wealth, the world of the drives, sexuality, earthly happiness was blossoming. And negatively, there was no spirit whatsoever. A world of total stupidity, so to speak, of only living very agreeably, but not thinking or having any ideas or spiritual realizations at all. And the men accordingly unhappy and submissive and rather poor creatures. But generally, these things balance back and forth. There will be another generation of men who will, in male protest again, put the things into a middle position, or try to put the things in a middle position. It seems to be, the ideal seems to be not that either the men dominate or the women dominate, but that there is a kind of equal relationship, a balance of opposites.
And this demon woman, this devouring mother, how does she come together in a man's unconscious in the first place?
The devouring mother on the personal level would be the fact that many women who are over-caring for their children try to keep them back from life. It begins by being anxious. Don't do that, it's dangerous. Don't do that, it's dangerous. Don't go to play out with the boys. You could fall and wound, or you get hit over the head. And by trying to keep the children too much in their clutches, and then we speak of devouring mothers. And such mothers also have trouble when their sons and daughters begin to date girls or boys. They say, I'm very much wishing that you married, and I'm very glad, but that girl you bring home now, no, that is not the right girl for you, or that's not the right boy for you. So they keep the children in their clutches. But that is only the foreground of a woman who has exaggerated her maternal protective qualities. There is also an archetypal background.
When a man idealizes a woman and projects his anima onto her, he gives her tremendous power. Why is it dangerous for women to identify with that projection? Or like Marilyn Monroe, to become the love goddess and live out his desires?
Because, as we know from the life history of Marilyn Monroe, she did not live her own life. She acted all the time the anima of men. Generally, there are women, and that is ultimately due to the power drive. When women discover that if they are beautiful, they can exert a magic power over men, then they take to acting all the time the anima. We are even in our jargon sometimes talking about anima women. Those are women who find out how to act the anima to men. And because this is not love, but pure power drive, it is destructive to the men and to themselves. Because it's using the guise of love for worldly power. Such women want to rule the men, they want the men to be all at their feet, and then they naturally are unhappy because they don't feel loved. I remember when I was young, sometimes when a man projected his anima onto me and was pursuing me and giving me presents and so on, I had the distinct feeling, but that fellow doesn't know me at all. He's chasing an image. I wanted to look back. Who is he chasing? It's not me. Me as a human being he doesn't see. And so if a woman falls into the trap of acting out the anima, she can exert a tremendous power over men. But at the same time, inwardly, she's frustrated because those men love her image, they don't love her. So she's really very lonely underneath. And that's what caught up with poor Marilyn Monroe.
And does this woman who's playing the anima, does she just fulfill the man's needs? Anything he wants, she does? Or how does it work?
It works as long as it is an adventure or a love affair. Then she fills out his needs. But when he has to live with her, if he marries her and has to live with her in everyday life, then comes the trouble. A, she will play the anima to all the other men as well, and he'll not like that. And secondly, he'll suddenly discover that underneath that beautiful mask, there is no human being. There's no warmth. There's no possibility of a human relationship. So to marry an anima figure is most disappointing. And that these women who play that are called by the French femme fatale, women who ruin men.
If a man has this mother complex, then how does he experience women in real life?
If a man has a too close tie to his mother, then he, especially a positive one, then he tends to idealize women. He sees in every woman the Beatrice of Dante, so to speak, or the Virgin Mary. And then such men cannot approach women again with their lower parts, with sexually and in ordinary human life. Or they have a split anima situation. They admire a very unapproachable, lofty, beautiful girl from afar and satisfy their sexual desires with prostitutes and cannot bring the two ends together. They cannot put the princess and the bitch together, so to speak, in their psyche. And that is generally due to a too close tie to the mother in the man. He has to free himself from the mother. That's why, for instance, in one of the famous examples of such a princess in the tower, Rapunzel, she's imprisoned by a witch. It's the mother figure behind the scene, which brings forth the constellation. And then both lovers cannot meet on earth. And only when Rapunzel has come down on earth and he has erred around in the desert in misery and pain, can they finally meet.
Some men find their devouring mother out in life, in corporations, universities, or institutions of some kind.
I think one element of the devouring mother archetype is what one could call inertia. All big institutions have the tendency towards a certain inertia. They are not flexible. And therefore they are, so to speak, material blocks, situations which are just so. And as far as men have a mother complex, they feel, well, the universities are even called, were in the past called alma mater, the benevolent mother. And we see that whenever you have an institution, people tend to be infantile and to suck that institution for money, to ask for loans and stipendia, and to use them as benevolent mothers. And so the mother can easily be, the devouring mother can be easily projected onto a plant or a big organization or an institute or a university. They have even feminine names, and if in former times when one represented them, one represented the alma mater as a fat woman, and America is still represented by a fat woman holding up, at least she's holding up a light, that's making it a bit better.
But is there a light on top of that fat old woman? Everywhere I look, I see the principle of mother-relatedness is breaking down. The institutions that once contained us, the church, family, marriage, even the economy, no longer provides that security. Where do you see the light?
Well, I would say through the panicky feeling of the danger of a nuclear war. For instance, you see that people, and through the suddenly realizing the problem of pollution, there has been a basic change in many, mainly the young people, but also I think already my generations was fully aware of that we will have to basically change our way of life in some way. There is still a lot of quarreling and discussing how and why and in what form and so on. But I think everybody agrees we have to find some way of peacefully live together and not destroy each other by a nuclear war. We have to deal differently with nature than we have done up till now. And we have to change our too rational mode of life. I would say that is going through. If you think of a book of Marilyn Ferguson, The Aquarian Conspiracy, you see that there is, this book only gives the absolute surface of things, the only superficial aspect, but you see that everywhere there is a parallel change of attitude, which with the German word one expresses as Zeitgeist, as spirit of the time. In history, this is well known. For instance, if you look at the art of the 13th century as compared to the Renaissance art, you see how much the spirit of the time has changed in those few hundred years. Suddenly, as if collectively the whole mankind has a different outlook. In the medieval art, everything is concentrated on the divine. There's no perspective, there's practically no landscape, there's no representation of animals, trees, and worldly things. And then in the Renaissance, suddenly this switch to discovering nature, the human body, the perspective of space and of space, the different building. Now that is only a very striking change which everybody knows in retrospect, but such a striking change seems to me to be constellated again today, and that's why naturally keenly interested intellectual people cannot avoid asking the question, what is the change of our time? What is our situation? Especially under the threat of a nuclear war, which preoccupies practically everybody's mind. There is a a kind of desperate look at the sky. What does it mean to? How could we change? What is coming? What is ahead of time? This kind of anxiety is everywhere. We are still in living in an age, or at the end of an age, where the opposites, Jupiter and Saturn, good and evil, spirit and instinctual physical drive, are in great opposition. We are torn apart by opposites, which in political terms would amount to any minute having a war. You have even on one side of the Iron Curtain an anti-Christian principle ruling, and on the other side officially still a Christian outlook ruling. So the Iron Curtain is dividing Jupiter and Saturn, so to speak. That's only the earthly image of what is happening on a much deeper level in the human psyche of every individual.